Something is clearly going very wrong inside Sony PlayStation right now, and it's getting concerning, I have to admit, because this entire PS5 generation has been nothing but massive gambles after gambles. Some are paying off, others are clearly not. And now Sony's apparently sick of their own studios and the lack of games that are coming out of them too. But before we begin, let's thank the sponsor of this video, Game Boost. Let's be real, sometimes you want to buy a game but you don't like paying full price, and that's where Game Boost comes in. Game Boost is an all-in-one service that brings everything you need to enjoy video games at premium discounts. From in-game currencies, game keys, and more, Game Boost uses verified only users when it comes to these services. They're prioritizing safety and trust, ensuring that every payment is legit and nothing is a scam. They also have competitive pricing for game keys that have instant delivery upon purchase. You can use Visa, Apple Pay, it all works. You also get cash back on all purchases, which means the more you buy, the more you save as well. There's also instant 24-hour human support for any of your questions. You can snag games like Crimson Desert, as you can see, alongside games like Arc Raiders, Clair Obscur, and much more for deeply discounted prices. You can also buy full in-game accounts for many popular games if you want a head start, from Call of Duty, Roblox, PUBG, Fortnite, Valorant, and more, all entirely legit with secured purchases guaranteed. All this is designed to ensure you get the best experience possible with an intuitive interface, filter options, and more to make your shopping experience easy as it can get. Game Boost is also on Trustpilot, where only trusted gaming marketplaces are allowed to be as well, and Game Boost also has the ability to gift the keys you buy at a discount on PC as well, which can then be used on Steam, Ubisoft, Connect, Epic Games, and much more. So if you're looking for your next game to binge, want to top up your currency in a game, or want a certain item or cosmetic, Game Boost has you covered. First, I'll start with Naughty Dog, then we're going to get over to Bungie. As OpenCritic said here, Sony is apparently at their wits' end when it comes to both Naughty Dog and Bungie with their current gaming outputs. Jason Schreier spoke following his expose on Bungie and how everything there is on fire currently, as you can see here, where a lot of people are wondering why isn't Bungie doing a Destiny 3 right now? Well, it all comes down to money, of course. A user then responded, why is it that Sony is fine with, say, Naughty Dog taking forever to make anything and spending hundreds of millions of dollars than if Bungie is taking the full brunt of the force instead right now? Jason would then respond to the Naughty Dog comments, saying that Sony definitely internally anyways has a huge problem with Naughty Dog as well, and how long it's taking them to make games, and I mean, who can really blame them? In terms of the PS5 generation currently, when it comes to a PS5 next generation only title from Naughty Dog, you really only have one thing. I mean, yeah, okay, Last of Us Part 2 came out in 2020, that's the same year the PS5 came out, but that doesn't mean that it's a PS5 game. That's cross-generation, of course. Since then, I guess all you really gotten is a remake of a PS3 game, right? Last of Us Part 1. And I guess besides that, there's nothing really else that they made that is PS5 only. I wouldn't even really call The Last of Us Part 1 remake a new game even, because for all intents and purposes, it just felt, unnecessary to remake that in the first place. My guess was the only reason why they did that was to have a product available on the PS5, at full price by the way, when the whole HBO show first premiered, so Sony could then bank on the renewed interest of Last of Us to make their money. A smart move, yeah. Probably made them something, but either way, it's not a new experience per se from Naughty Dog, it's just The Last of Us 1 again. So where's the new games? Well, I guess you have Intergalactic, but that's still in development and has been in for, as we can assume, the entirety of the PS5 generation so far. Jason Schreier would reiterate his comments further on Reset Era, as you can see here, where he states the state of games being made at a AAA level anyway, so all of Sony first party really, is in a really weird spot right now, because everything is costing a fortune to make. You could chalk it up to games being too detailed or needing to be way too big to justify their existence at such a level, but obviously, if you compare the PS3 output of, say, Naughty Dog to the PS5, I mean, come on, it's not even close. On the PS3, Naughty Dog managed to make an entire Uncharted trilogy of games and The Last of Us within a single generation. Uncharted 2, for example, was made in something like 2 years and some change, which is practically unheard of these days. Granted, people will challenge that and say, sure, that's true, but comparing Uncharted 1 through 3 graphics or scope-wise to, say, Uncharted 4, or even The Last of Us Part 2, that's on another level. I mean, Uncharted 4 is still insanely detailed. The levels are, yes, bigger, and Last of Us Part 2 is amazing in terms of its technical detail and its design. No one can deny that. It's just that the story, sucks, unfortunately, there, which is, again, another problem that Sony keeps having too. I mean, look at Saros that released recently, that kind of proves it as well. The point here is that Sony, they're in a really weird spot because in terms of actual first-party software that is meant to define their platform, there just isn't really enough of it. And remember that the majority of what the PS5 has, God of War Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2, and so on, they aren't even exclusive. Those are on PC, which is why when it comes to the PS5, uniquely in Sony's catalog of software and hardware, the PS5, is arguably the least needed of their entire pantheon, because whatever you want to play on there can just be found elsewhere. Well, besides Astro Bot and Demon Souls remake, I guess, but either way, this is why Sony has, as IGN confirmed here a few days back, that they will now be returning to console exclusives going forward. Some may think, well, that's kind of stupid, but the reality is now more than ever, really, if you want people to play on your platform, you got to ensure there's actual reasons to get access to said platform in some way. Nintendo, now they have that down to a science. You're not going to play nothing Nintendo related unless you buy a Switch. Or I guess you could pirate it, but if you do that, Shigeru Miyamoto will blow your kneecaps off and end your entire bloodline. So it makes sense why Sony's doing what they're doing. The response from the PC side of the equation has been kind of a collective shrug. As PC Gamer said here, Sony's pivot to console exclusives again, it robs PC players of maybe 4 games at tops, at best. Oh no, PC gamers won't get Ghost of Yotei, the horror. Oh well, they already have Ghost of Tsushima, so they're fine. PC not getting Seros, I mean, the gameplay in that game is good, but again, the story and such is, well, typical modern Sony. You know what I mean, humiliation, ritual, nothing burgers that simply exist to be vehicles to hit you over the head with. Gameplay was fun at least. I guess the big loss here is, I guess Marvel's Wolverine coming out this year, although apparently that game needs to sell about 6 million copies in its first month, or allegedly Sony might lose their deal with Marvel. That's a rumor though, so I'm not going to state that as fact. But either way, okay, the response to Sony doing this, like I said, has been PC gamers going, oh no, anyways, for a good reason. Because largely speaking, what Sony has to offer for PS5, frankly, these days, is not console selling worthy yet anyways. The word's still out on Wolverine, if that ends up being a humiliation ritual, God, I hope not. But the rest of what's come out so far, at least, has been very middle of the road for what Sony is used to giving their players. The problem here is that Intergalactic, the next Naughty Dog game, also has people on edge, because it's modern Naughty Dog, right? We kind of know what to expect from them. When it comes to this following Last of Us Part 2, I'm going to guess Intergalactic will be technically very impressive, it'll run well, it'll look good, the acting's going to be very well done, the graphics will be silky smooth, the gameplay will be fun as well, the environments will look beautiful. But what about the story? Those character designs? The things that have again been time and time over and over the reasons why every Sony first-party exclusive these days doesn't resonate the way that they used to. I'm not going to say, oh, Intergalactic story will be another humiliation for the player. I mean, I hope not, obviously. But at least from the first glance, based on what we have on it, I'm not convinced either, and that's kind of the point. Naughty Dog has a lot riding on Intergalactic, probably more than ever before, because they lost a lot of goodwill following Last of Us Part 2, at least with the player base. I mean, the critics love them, because, well, obvious reasons. But from what we've seen from critics loving your games like a mixtape, it doesn't exactly translate into sales, but more like public disdain at the best of times. I used to love Naughty Dog. Now, I'm kind of ambivalent to their entire existence. It's like they have everything that you need to be successful. And then there comes the writing, that's just bad, and the characters are annoying, so what's really the point of any of this? If the constant feedback in the game demeaning you or talking down to you, it really doesn't matter how fun it is to play, people are going to walk away as well. Doesn't really seem like Sony is learning that lesson, given that Seros has practically fallen right out of the gate. And then when you go look at Bungie right now, oh boy, man, that whole thing is on fire almost 24/7. The entirety of how Sony is ran from a first-party perspective, at least, it feels less confident than ever as a lifetime PlayStation fan. I just gotta be real about it. I do feel that way. Nobody wants fair games or another Concord. I mean, people don't even really want Marathon. Yet when it comes to the live service games people want more of, like a Destiny 3 potentially, that's suddenly not in development. But you're going to keep pushing with Marathon. Like, why? It just feels wrong, man. Honestly. It feels like Sony just doesn't have their ear on the pulse of what people really want anymore. It doesn't surprise me either that Jason Schreier stated that Sony is frustrated with their first-party studios taking forever to make their games. But I mean, if that is still the case, can we at least ensure the games that are going to be made, if they're taking so long, don't end up alienating people too? Are you really willing to drop $300 million per game and have it fail because some writer can't help themselves? That seems crazy to me. You would think at that level of development and investment and everybody that's involved, that these sorts of things would be ironed out, but it doesn't really seem to be the case. Honestly, feels like Sony just needs a consulting group of just ordinary Joe Schmo gamers to go over their games during development and just point out things like, yeah, that plot line's going to anger a lot of people and make them not want to buy your game. That design there in your game is going to annoy people. Like, if Seros had someone like that on their development, maybe the disaster could have been avoided. All they really needed was like the most vanilla gamer regular guy to look at Seros and go, yeah, that story, that's going to cost you millions, because people are just tired of that. But, you know, they make these games in a bubble, and the result that when the obvious thing happens is the people involved making it will suddenly suddenly feel shocked, because again, it feels like current Sony games are being made divorced from objective reality. As seen here, allegedly Jason Schreier confirms that a potential Destiny 3 would cost Sony upwards of $500 million. Which is okay, yeah, that's a lot of money, of course, but the truth is a Destiny 3 that doesn't alienate its fan base and actually delivers what's promised would then make its budget back in less than a week easily. Destiny, as in the first one, made somewhere around $500 million in 24 hours. Destiny 2 broke console records and became the best-selling game in that franchise, so duh, yeah, it made even more, and Jason is projecting as a budget for Destiny 3, right? But the problem with Destiny is the same as Intergalactic and any other Sony game that has failed or will fail in the future. Like Fair Games, for example, just cancel that one, nobody even wants it. But it's like always the internal politics and greed that ruins practically everything. Destiny was great when it was just a game meant to have fun. Destiny 2, even, that was also fun. But when you really look at the bigger picture, I mean, you start to notice something weird, don't you? Why was Destiny 2 vaulting content that you paid for? Did you know that the campaign Red War, that was the main campaign of Destiny 2 when it came out? That's not even playable in Destiny 2 right now as we speak. Like, that's real. The entire point of Destiny 2 existing was the story that Gaul and his Legion of Cabal decimated Earth and the Guardians, leading to a resistance to push them back and reclaim the planet. You can't even play that campaign. The missions, like all of it, it's all vaulted. This was apparently due to major engine problems. Not even Bungie apparently can access this original campaign unless they rebuild it from scratch. Like, what's happening? For example, right now, if you were to play Destiny 2, you cannot play the Red War campaign, Curse of Osiris's campaign, or the related missions. Even Warmind, which is co-developed by High Moon Studios, if I remember correctly, or, and this is even crazy, right? The Forsaken expansion, which is baffling, because in case you never played Destiny 2, Forsaken is largely considered to be one of the best expansions that Bungie has ever made. It was this dark revenge story about hunting down the Prince of the Awoken. It had these cool Fallen-themed bosses. You hunted across the shore. Yeah, you can't even play that even if you wanted to. Like, all the seasonal content is gone too, of course, and even stuff like the Menagerie, the Black Armory Forges, Gambit Prime, even raids like Scourge of the Past, Leviathan, Crown of Sorrows. Like, this is all gone from the game now too. And Sony, since buying Bungie, has done really nothing, at least so far, to return any of this content, which is a lot, by the way. I would know, I've played all those expansions myself, and then they wonder why their games aren't selling or making the money needed. Because every game we want Sony Studios to actually make, Sony doesn't really seem to want to do. We want Bloodborne too. Sorry, no, you're going to get Intergalactic instead. Can we get a new Infamous? No, you're going to get Ghost of Yotei now. Like, even when we do get the games we think that we want from Sony, like a Spider-Man 2, it's just Peter getting slapped around 24/7 while he praises Miles the entire time. It's just, man, dude, like as a fan, or I guess somewhat fan now of Sony's first-party games, to say that they've had a generational fumble would be an understatement of fumbles. It's like they had the blueprint, you know what I mean? Make these games. Give them Tsushima 2. Give them Spider-Man 2018, but even better. Make a game worthy of Naughty Dog's legacy. No, you're going to get bald-headed Space Girl adventures instead. It's exhausting. And then you look at the live service offerings, and it's just Helldivers 2 who keeps nerfing the players while buffing the bug enemies. There was this one infamous tweet where some guy said that Helldivers 2 is being supported, as if the bugs are the ones who paid $40 and not you. And honestly, that's kind of how that game feels. And outside of Helldivers, like, what do you got? PlayStation just recently, as seen here from 80level.com, they shut down Destruction All-Stars, another live service game meant to set the world on fire that had very diverse character designs. Oh boy. I mean, look at this character in this All-Stars game. Wow. Who would want to play a game as SSRI Debbie over here? Can't imagine why that game failed. And look at this design. Look, it's plus-size Susie with her blonde hair with the shaved sides. It's truly, like, perplexing why this failed the way that it did. Like, why is Sony making this stuff, man? Why does this game exist, but a sequel to Infamous Second Son doesn't? Why do we have Fair Games when all we wanted was another Killzone or Resistance? Why make these things at all? I get it to a degree, okay? They need new IP, but who looked at Destruction All-Stars and went, oh yeah, people are going to love this over a new Resistance game? Can you imagine a Resistance game that is open world and allows you to do guerrilla attacks on alien installations in the heart of America? Like, dude, that would be Sony's own Fallout, but with aliens pretty much. Like, why is that not a thing that exists? And with Halo effectively dead in the water because Microsoft is being ran by, you know, nonsense, Killzone could then be repurposed into a spiritual successor, or I guess spiritual taker is probably a better way of putting it now. And you could expand Killzone, bring in some new threats, shake it up, take the Halo crown finally. It's not like they're using it for anything, right? Instead, you're going to get live service nonsense that nobody wants. It just feels like everything at Sony is sideways right now. No wonder Sony's fed up with their games. They're not making what anyone wants anymore. Destiny 3, like, that should just be in the cards for you. That's a no-brainer. They'd be stupid not to make that. There's a petition for Destiny 3 right now that crossed something like 200,000 signatures already. Marathon, by the way, that has its second season coming out very soon, and Bungie is so desperate for players, they're actually making the first week of Marathon's new season free to play for all players, just to get people in because they need them. It's just, oh man, like none of this would be happening if Sony's internal games were healthy. Sure, okay, they're gonna have some winners, but they used to be the top dogs, you know? Victory, as Bane once said in that movie, has defeated them. Like, they got too complacent. They languished in their glory, and now they just kind of lost the plot. And with the amount of money being thrown around alongside things getting rebooted, canceled, or shut down after release, it explains a lot, and none of it is good. Because if you ask me and look at the current state of PlayStation, it feels like the company completely lost focus chasing trends instead of protecting the identity that made people love their brand in the first place. I mean, am I wrong? I guess let me know in the comments, but I don't really think so. This entire situation circles back to Sony being obsessed with live service games and appealing to the industry types and what they want to see over you, the people that actually buy the games. That's why everything they've been making mostly just seasonal content and such instead of the things you want to see. And look, I'm not going to say live service is bad, it depends on the game. But in Sony's case, they're not doing too hot with it. I mean, but it makes sense, right? Why at least, I guess, they thought this was a good idea in the first place. Because why spend 5 or 6 years making one single game when a live service game made with the same amount of time can make money for years, right? Instead of most of its revenue up front and then maybe dwindling returns as time goes on. The problem is that Sony built its biggest studios around the concept of single-player games, not the live ones. Naughty Dog was built from the ground up over decades for handcrafted cinematic games. At least they're still doing that. Dumb stories aside, but at least they're still doing that, right? Carefully placed, all of that. Like, that was PlayStation's identity, the bread and butter. That's where they thrived. Because those games gave Sony the prestige that they wanted. It was their brand identity. Bungie, honestly, if you go look at what they do, I mean, they're kind of nothing like Sony's premier studios. I don't mean in talent, by the way, but in philosophy and design, right? That can't be denied. But like Bungie at first glance, yeah, they're a live service studio. They don't really make Sony games. They make Bungie games. The problem is that Sony now wants their studios to also make Bungie-like games too. But even Bungie these days can't seem to make Bungie games that work. So now instead of having Sony games, we have games that are kind of made for nobody, because half of them get canceled before they're releasing anyways. This is why they bought Bungie, right? Because they were meant to be the saviors of this pivot in strategy. They didn't acquire Bungie for billions because, oh, why not? It was for Bungie to guide them specifically to make games like them. But the problem is that most of those games fail anyways, because it's impossible to keep that many plates spinning. And what Sony seems to have underestimated is that you cannot simply force studios known for cinematic storytelling or that kind of thing to suddenly become experts at sustaining these multiplayer ecosystems for like 10 years and then some. Those are completely different skill sets. It doesn't work. For example, right, it would be like saying, oh, you went to school for chef-related stuff? Well, cool. You're an astronaut now. Sorry, what? That's a big difference? We don't care. You have to be an astronaut, okay? We need them. So you're now one, and that's just how this all really sounds. This is why Sony is now stuck between two different paths, and one of them clearly does not make any sense. We want those prestige single-player games. Sony's leadership instead wants Destiny 3, 4, and 5 and more pretty much, but with different brands attached to them. Oh joy, I can't wait to log in every day to my 7 different Sony live service games, grinding my bounties every week. Wow, I love video games, guys. Doesn't that sound fun? No, it does not. You want me to run a YouTube channel, go to the gym, I guess, be there for family or friends, and have a social life somehow, also take care of my dogs, and do all the other things that happen, and you think I also want to throw in half a dozen live service games I now need to play amidst all of that? No, I'm not doing it. I just want to play one game at a time, beat it, and then move on to the next one. Sony's executives are terrified because they don't want to spend gigantic buckets of money on games that make money once or whatever, and then not again. So now, everything has to be a forever game. Ironically, that just creates its own disaster because now the projects that take longer, those things get bloated and expensive, like the girl you used to go to high school with who let herself go, and that's why these things are failing. People only have so much time, okay? That's the reality. What makes this entire situation so frustrating is that PlayStation already had one of the strongest identities in gaming, but somewhere along this very stupid highway, the executives just forgot what made the brand special. So instead of protecting what PlayStation means, they just want to chase the trends. Look, we want to make Destiny, but with God of War and Last of Us, and then cancel both those games, which they did, by the way. And probably Horizon. Well, they actually are making a Horizon MMO, and they have that other one coming out that's like Monster Hunter. And who knows what Ratchet and Clank is even doing? Maybe they'll get a live service game too, because why not? Wow, can't wait, Sony, can't wait. Like, this is what happens when your corporate strategy is so disconnected from like real reality. And Sony, alongside the things they own, are learning the hard way. It's why so many people love the PS4 era, and gee, I wonder why. It's because it felt dominant and confident, like Sony knew what they were doing and they stuck to that. Now it feels weird. Games get delayed all the time. Projects just disappear or they get canceled. Like, why is Naughty Dog announcing Intergalactic years before release to drum up the hype for a game we might not even get until 2027? That's being generous. Probably 2028 at the earliest. Like, what are we doing? No wonder everyone is mostly gravitating towards smaller games. They're cheaper, faster to make, and they usually don't self-sabotage because the writers have a chip on their shoulder. They actually want their games to succeed. Like, look at the end of the day, okay? Sony's current situation feels like the result of a company chasing the wrong future. PlayStation became successful because it delivered premium experiences that people genuinely loved. I miss that Sony. If my only two options for future Sony games are either single-player humiliation rituals or second-job simulators, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people just kind of walk away. I really do. Like, how do I put this in the video game terms? It's like an RPG class builder, you know what I mean? If the single-player part of Sony is the warrior class, high strength, high defense, and HP but low magic, and the live service one is a rogue with like high dex stat and low HP and low strength and so on, and Sony is not committing hard enough to making either of their RPG character builds work, if that makes any sense. They're trying to plug their precious skill points evenly into strength and dexterity and HP and their defense, maybe a little bit of magic too. But now what you're left with is a character build that's just not really good at anything. Yeah, okay, they have like somewhat of a strength stat, but they're not as strong as the two-hander warriors who went all in like a Nintendo. Sure, you have some dexterity stats or magic, I guess, but they're never going to be the same level of, say, a Call of Duty. Because you wasted those other stats on strength already when you should have put it into the other things. So now you just have a mess of a build, right? You can't really wield any of the weapons you want to. You're too weak to fight even the normal enemies. You can't use the good bows, but only the starter ones because your dex isn't high enough, but your magic is also not high enough either to really use any of the spells that like matter. So you're kind of just useless in your current state, you know what I mean? Now all you can really do is like respec, and if that's not an option, well, you got to restart the game, man. Because this build you got making, Sony, it's a mess. It really is. I guess the lesson here is, if you're going to do something, pick a single class and stick to it, okay? Don't be a wizard if you're a warrior. If you want to be a rogue, okay, commit to that. Stop trying to be everything at once. Even in real life, you can't do that. You only got so much experience, time, and energy, right? So use it wisely. Otherwise, you're just going to stay like a Magikarp in a Pokemon game, right? Just useless, splashing about, doing nothing. Someone, please, put this poor fish out of its misery, because it's getting sad. And like Sony, if they want to turn into a Gyarados or something, like they got to level up, man. This entire analogy is a mess. Look, just stop while you're ahead, all right? Focus heavily into the strength stat, get those single-player games going again, and enough with the magic and the dex stats. You're not a magic user, Sony, okay? If you were, you'd be wearing robes with a funny hat. But you guys are wearing heavy armor right now, and your weight is now so heavy, you can't even dodge correct. Like, your stamina is running out, okay? When you dodge, it doesn't even work. I'm turning this into a Dark Souls build video. Whatever, okay? Stop being idiots. God, I love two-hander builds, man. Where is Bloodborne 2, for God's sakes? Man, they just keep remaking Horizon, but Bloodborne's just sitting there. It makes me sick, dude. And thanks again to Game Boost for sponsoring this video. Make sure to check the link in the description or pinned comment to get 5% off your purchase. Thanks again to Game Boost. Anyway, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're into that sort of thing. And Sony, they used to be Cloud Strife. Now they're like Rafa in Final Fantasy Tactics. Utterly pointless. Like, why use them? Just use Sid and Ramza instead. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. See you next time.